Hello, chess fans. Welcome to coverage of round 2 of the Tata Steel tournament, in which Aronian was the winner. As you saw, he drew the first game, but this game is when he shows his true mastery that shines throughout the tournament. I mean, I can't go on enough about how impressive Aronian's play was in this event. Let's start from the beginning of the game. Knight f3. Oh, I'm bad at making moves. Knight f6, c4, c5, knight c3, d5. So Caruana is going for some kind of Grunfeld-like defense. White plays d4. This is not the most common move, but it suits Aronian's style very well. He just kind of goes for some relatively simple position, a la Carlsen, and trying to outplay his opponent. He does this time and time again in this tournament. The only difference, in my opinion, between him and Carlsen is I believe he has worked out some of these variations and has them prepared. So Queen a5 was played. And again, we're going to focus mainly on the key moments. So Black goes for a very standard central break. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, e5. This is your first quiz of the game. Pause your video. Think about what move you would play here for White. Alright, so I'm going to demonstrate the answer now. There's a key to this position that we have to recognize. All of White's pieces are developed. All of Black's pieces are developed, except for one. This bishop. So what would happen if we went pawn takes pawn? Simple. Black would take with a knight. The bishop is now free to develop. Therefore, we should not take this pawn. We should play the move bishop to g3. And that is exactly what Aronian did, and now he has trouble developing this knight. Sorry, this bishop. So after pawn takes pawn, knight takes, this bishop still has some issues. So at this point, Black played the relatively logical knight to b6. Again, he wants to develop this bishop. This is the key to the position. If he can play the moves bishop d7 and rook c8 without any trouble, Black should be fine here. So the question is, again, if you were White here, what move would you play? So this one, it's easy to go wrong. The key is you want to put pressure on this b7 pawn, so that the bishop cannot move without giving up that pawn. There are two easy ways to do this. One of them is queen to c7. The other one is f5. Which of these two is better? It turns out that definitely queen to c7 is better. Bishop e4 looks very natural, because if the bishop moves, we simply take the pawn and White is just up a pawn. Black, however, has the annoying move f5. It looks risky opening up the king, but after bishop f3, keeping the bishop on this diagonal, Black has the very annoying move. Bishop takes d4, pawn takes d4, and f4. And now after bishop h4, g5, and this bishop is trapped. Therefore, bishop f3 is not the best way to deal with it, and Aronian played correctly and played queen to c7. So as you see, there's a lot of moments in these games where you have to find that one key move, or else your advantage slips away. And quite often in the annotations I see online, I don't see any mention of these moves at all. Like, they're just glossed over as though they don't exist. But these decisions, very easy to get wrong. Many masters, IMs, and even GMs will make the wrong choices in these cases. That's what makes Aronian and the guys in this tournament the absolute best of the best. So Black got a little desperate here, because now he really has trouble developing this bishop. And what he did was he just took and just sacrificed the pawn. He realized he couldn't just sit there and play all game without his bishop. He just had to give up a pawn to get his pieces developed. And now White captured on b7. So now White is up a pawn, and it's a matter of technique at this point. But it's not super easy. This pawn is passed, but can be easily blockaded by the knight. So after queen to a6, queen to e4, bishop to e5 is played, a nice move. eyeing those key squares. Rook f8 is also a nice move, trying to kick the bishop out. And we're going to just go through these moves pretty quickly. Bishop g3 was played. The idea is if the rook takes this pawn, white will get the a pawn, and then have a passed a pawn. So black did not do that. Black instead went rook on f to f7. Now, this pawn is defended. Now, black is planning to take this. So white finds a good way to defend it. He plays f3, attacking the queen. Queen to f5. And the idea is bishop f2 can now defend the pawn. So like if queen e3 check, bishop f2. But now he just goes for the open file, because why not? Why not improve the one piece that's not developed? King to g7. King h2, just a nice safety move, get the king nice and cozy. Rook f to e7. Rook c5. Knight d5. Queen a5, putting pressure on this piece. Queen e6. Rook e1. Queen f7. Now white to move in this position. What would you play here? Pause your video, try to figure it out. So the obvious move, and by the way, in this position, it's not super clear what the best move is. It's just that Aronian plays a typical grandmaster move, where you just don't jump in with the trades like rook takes e7 here, but instead maintains his control of the file. And if rook takes rook, pawn takes, now we have these two central pawns. So it's like we're still on the e file, and black can't really take it so easily. If we took the rook, black would take with a knight, and admittedly this position is also much better for white. But I kind of like Aronian's move, rook to e4. Knight to e3 was played with the idea of knight f1, and when the king moves, knight takes g3. White simply played bishop f2, knight f5, putting some pressure on that pawn. And now white should play... I actually forget what white should do. Maybe like queen to b4, queen to c3, something like that. White made what I think is his only real mistake of the game. Queen to d2. And this is a key moment now. What would you play for black here? Alright, so if you figured it out, you can... If you haven't figured it out, keep your video paused, try to work it out. But I'm going to show it now. This comes down to tactical awareness. And whenever you just put your queen on the same line as his rook, you got to be a little careful before you do that, because that means that this pawn is not defending this rook. And black has a very nice tactical shot. Rook takes e4. And the idea is, after pawn takes e4, we have this beautiful double attack. The queen attacks the rook and attacks e4. And white has no time to go pawn takes knight because of queen takes rook. So this was a key moment that Caruana completely missed. If you found this, way to go. You played better than one of the best players in the world for this move. Because Aronian did mess up at this point. And this probably would have saved the day for Caruana. But instead, he didn't find that. And the rest of the game, it was still eventful, but not like super instructive in my mind. We'll just glance through it pretty quickly. Rook a5. I totally missed a move, sorry. He played queen to e1 here to stop rook to b1. Knight e7, rook to a5. Knight takes d5, queen to d1, rook to d7. Rook takes, bishop takes. g5, a4. Now, the knight on f4 is going to be annoying sometimes around our king, but in the end, it wasn't enough to pose Aronian any serious problems. Queen a1, queen behind the pawn. Queen c2. Uh-oh, knight's coming to f4. a5 was played anyway. Knight to f4. Now, it's an interesting thing. White has a completely forced win here that he missed. He played the move bishop to f2. Queen b2 actually is probably stronger. It doesn't look like it is because of knight e2. And then after, like, if king h1, queen d1 is annoying. And if king h2, knight takes, queen c7, followed by queen takes pawn. But believe it or not, white can play this kind of crazy move, king to f2, putting the king so it can be discovered checked. But at this point, a6 wins. However, I can see why Aronian might not want to calculate anything, because he thinks he's probably technically winning here. So when you have a technically winning position, you'd like to avoid any complications, which is pretty much what he does with bishop to f2, knight e2, king h2. He goes back to f4, and he just slowly consolidates here. Knight to d3, queen to d2. This move's strange, bishop to g1, but I think he just thinks he's solid here, and eventually this pawn's going to become a queen. Notice the queen can't take the pawn, because we would take the knight. So queen f4 was played, king h1, queen to c4, queen back behind the pawn, queen c2, bishop to e3. It's funny here. This is one moment where this, by the way, threatens the g-pawn. The move a6 turns out to be very risky. It still wins, but it's complicated. The idea is if knight f4, queen f1 is the only defense. So black should first go queen e2, stopping queen f1 completely. And now it's very hard to stop knight f4. The only real defense I found, which turns out good enough, is knight f4, bishop takes, king takes, and then I think it was queen to... I forget. Queen to b2. Queen a6. And I think we can take on g5 here, which is the problem. Yeah, and after king takes, we have queen e5. And so, basically, white is winning this position. Sorry, black is winning this. White is winning. White is still winning this position. But it would have caused some complications. He wanted to avoid that, I guess. Played bishop to e3. h6, a6, and the pawn's just rolling up the board. Queen e2, queen g1, and black just can never quite make anything happen. He's close, but not close enough. Knight b4. Now we're just one square away from becoming a queen. Check. King h2. Oh, I lied. He didn't go there. He went bishop to g1, and I think black resigned at this point. Yeah. So, a very nice game from Aronian. A lot of key interesting moments. I think we found 4 or 5 of them. The first one was recognizing that bishop on c8. We did not want to let it develop easily, and we had to play that move bishop g3, keeping the tension. Secondly, the key was that queen c7 was the best way to stop development, better than bishop to e4. And then there was the other key moments where, let me see, what were they? I like that rook e4 move, kind of keeping the rook in the open file, but then we had to see that tactic for black. The Caruana missed and the Aronian missed. The rook takes and queen e7 idea. I think these were the key moments from this game. Overall, though, a very impressive opening for Aronian, because really in just 13 moves he had a clear advantage. And Aronian did a lot of that this tournament. Just some simple position, and he would just get a clear advantage right away against one of the best players in the world. It was very, very impressive. Thanks for watching this game, everyone. I will see you tomorrow with another game from this tournament. Bye-bye.